February. It's the second month of the year associated with a plethora of unique holidays, but in football, February means more players are added to the family. I'm Carla Metz, and welcome to Augustana All Access. National Signing Day has come and gone, leaving the Augustana football team a little better than when it was found. We'll meet with Coach O a little later to go over the newest additions to the Vikings community. But before we do, we've got a little basketball to get to. The Vikings cleaned house this past weekend, sweeping both opponents back to Minnesota. We catch up with the women's team Friday in the second half against Minnesota Crookston. Minnesota Crookston took a 4-point advantage into the half, but Augustana chipped away at the lead by scoring in their first 4 possessions of the second half, including this 3-pointer by Sydney Rome. And the Vikings would continue to outscore the Golden Eagles 29-23 in the third quarter. Augustana found the paint with ease, outscoring Crookston 46-30 inside. Sydney Rome led the team with 18 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. 4 other Vikings joined her in double figures, including Shelby Sellen, who had 16, Naomi Russ with 14, and the O'Farrells, Presley adding 11, and Logan with 10. The Vikings would build their lead up to as much as 12 in the final minutes of the game, and they'd close out the contest 87-79. The men's team faced one of the most feared freshmen in the NSIC in their game with Minnesota Crookston. Harrison Cleary, who is averaging 21.3 points through 24 games this season, would put up 16 against the Vikings, but Augustana would find other ways to make up for his performance, and that started and ended with Mike Busack, who recorded his third double-double, finishing with 15 points and a career-high 14 rebounds. Marcus Osmus led with 16, helping the Vikings outscore the Golden Eagles 54-18 inside the paint. Yes, 54-18. Up by 7 at the half, the Vikings would stretch it to 22 with a layup from a name we haven't said much this season, and that's Andy Kirkman. Kirkman would finish the night with 8 points, helping secure the 87-68 win. Saturday brought matchups with Bemidji State, and the women's team gave a dominant performance, not trailing at any part of the game. Shelby Sellen and Sydney Rome would lead the team in the first half with a combined 21 points, but it was Lindsey Prosser and Presley O'Farrell who stepped up in the second half. The team shot 50% from the field on the night and hit 13 of their 32 three-point attempts en route to an 86-61 victory. The women's team improves to 13-5 in the NSIC with just 4 games remaining on the schedule before tournament time. Moving to the men's game against the Beavers, Bemidji State actually took a 2-point lead into halftime, but it'd be another night for Mike Busack, who opened up scoring for the Vikings in the second half with back-to-back layups and then back-to-back threes, scoring 10 points within the first 2 minutes of the second half. Busack would end the night with 21 points and 14 rebounds. The Vikings were led by Adam Byer, who reached 22 points, and the team would continue to outscore the Beavers 46-26 in the final 20 minutes, shooting 18 of 32 from the field and 7 of 14 from the perimeter. Augustana would add another to their win column, 78-60, improving to 12-6 in the NSIC. No surprise that Mike Busack was named the NSIC South Division Player of the Week for his performance on the weekend, averaging 18 points and 14 rebounds in just 2 games. Busack and the Vikings face a very tough weekend against USF and Southwest Minnesota State. Friday's meeting with the Cougars will begin at 6 p.m. for the women and 8 p.m. for the men. Up next, we get Coach Billeter's reaction from the weekend sweep. But first, let's bring up this week's Vikings Vote question of the week. We ask how many true freshmen have played under Coach O in his time here at Augustana. Take a guess, and we'll have the correct answer for you at the end of the show.
Augustana All Access on Midco Sports Network is presented by Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and Classic Import.
Welcome back to Augustana All Access. Another weekend of basketball means another chance to talk with the coaches, and I'm joined by Coach Tom Billeter right now to go over the games against Minnesota Crookston and Bemidji State. And, Coach, we get to talk about 2 wins this week for the first time since, I think, early January.
Yeah.
Just to get us started, what were your overall thoughts about the weekend?
Thanks for bringing that up, Carl. I appreciate that. We didn't split this weekend. No, we needed to get back on the winning track at home and get a sweep. You know, we've been splitting, which is fine on the road, but not at home. And, really, 2 really up-and-coming young teams. And I know you always say that. I don't think at all Crookston's record at all is indicative of the team they have. This Harrison Cleary, the young freshman, averaging almost 22 points a game in league, is just going to be a great player. He reminds me a lot of a young man. This will be great for people that remember the mid-'90s, but UND had a player named Travis Tuttle. And this kid reminds me so much of Travis Tuttle, just how he carries himself. They're from the same area of Wisconsin, just how he shoots the ball. Just a great player, and he's going to be a great player. Defends, does it all. And Danny's doing a great job. Those kids played well, and that score is not really indicative at all. That was a close game.
Right.
Didn't like parts of how we played, really liked other parts, but overall just glad to get a win, and it was fun to get everybody in at the end, and that's always a good thing to do. It's good for morale, helps you for practice the next week. And, for so much going on in Sioux Falls, 2 great crowds. You had car shows, and you had the Stampede playing Friday night, and you had all the high school games going on, and
Right.
It was amazing, to have the crowds we did. So we're very appreciative of that, and the students are just showing up great again, and they're a lot of fun. So fun night, both nights, and very happy to get those wins.
Yeah, and you mentioned Cleary. He had 16 points again.
Held him 4 for 12, though.
Yeah.
Which he got to the free throw line 9 times and made 8 of them. But I actually thought we did a good job on him, and he still ended up with 16 points, 7 or 8 assists, 7 or 8 boards.
Yeah, and why is he so tough to defend? I mean,
He's
'cause
why
he
he's
still makes the
complete.
shots.
He's complete.
Yeah.
He can hit off the bounce. He can hit threes off the dribble. He can catch and shoot. He's a really good ball handler. He's a shifty ball handler. He's quick. He's not slow. He's a good athlete. And he's kind of like, for lack of a better word, he's almost devious. It's funny. He kind of sneaks in there a little bit, and then all of a sudden he's pulling up on you, even though you're guarding him. He has that little fade. John Warren did a really good job on him. We tried to put length on him for the most part, and I think that always bothers a player a little bit, especially if they're not used to seeing that length of practice. I always tell people, when we go and play Division I teams in those exhibition games, the athleticism of the big men is an issue, but the length of all their players. Length is something in basketball that's kind of underappreciated, misunderstood, and it's very important. And I thought our length on him helped us.
Right, and something else that helped you too, you were able to get inside a lot this game, outscoring them in the paint by quite a bit. What made you so good inside in that game?
It was fortunate that, we made our shots. We always try to go inside out. I know it seems guard dominant, and our offense may, show a lot of ball screens and things like that, but the ball screens are set up for the bigs as well to roll and to have different post-up opportunities. Mike Buzak scored on the block. Marcus Osmus came in and scored. When our bigs are scoring, we're hard to beat. When our bigs don't score, we're beatable. And if you go back, all those close losses, every conference loss has been in the last minute. If you go back and see where our bigs did produce, we're pretty good. When our bigs didn't score, other than the fact when Marcus Osmus had 26 and 10 against Moorhead, other than that game, we've lost the ones because we just you got to be complete, you got to be balanced, and you got to be inside out.
Yeah, and Osmus had 16 points that game. I think he only had 4 against Bemidji State, but really the previous 4 games before Bemidji State, he's been really consistent. What's making him so consistent toward the end of the season?
He can score, and he's a tweener. He's kind of a funny kid because he's 6'7". He's not he's strong. He just isn't, girth-wise, he's not huge. And so he's just sort of one of those kids. He can put it on the floor. He's got a nice touch. He can score. He can score the basketball. Working on some things still with him, but he's got a nice, very few players this day and age have a back to the basket move. He can hit a right and left hand hook. It's almost kind of a jump hook and the old Kareem Abdul-Jabbar sweeping hook. It's kind of in between. It's the Marcus Osmus hook because he invented it. But he can score a little bit around the bucket, and he's kind of nifty down there. And I think he's not an easy kid for teams to match up with.
Yeah, definitely a good player to have on your team. So moving on to Bemidji State, you were able to beat them 78-60. They actually had a 2-point lead at the half, but then after the half, you outscored them 46-26. What was the difference?
Yeah, nothing against Bemidji. They came ready to play, did a great job. It was the worst first 20 minutes we played all year, including Northwest Missouri, in my opinion, when we were down 24. We were really, really bad to start the game, flat, attitude-wise. I felt like, we would much rather have been at the car show than playing basketball that night. And it was just, it never ended. It was one of the most miserable halves of coaching I've had in years. I looked at my staff, I go, this is no fun. Yeah, it's one of the first times I've said that in a long, long time, that it just wasn't any fun. And then, we got, some thoughts going at halftime, and then came out second half. And really, I thought Mike Buzak led us. He scored 10 points in a row. He got us out of the doldrums, kind of got us going, got the crowd going. And I thought we played about as well as you can in the second half, So we went from about as poor as we played probably in 3 years to a good, we had some good halves the last couple of years, but to a good half.
Right.
And a lot of our issues right now sometimes are between the ears, and I think most teams are that way.
Right.
The talent level is very even. A lot of times it's a mental game. There's a lot of people management. There's a lot of emotional management. There's a lot that goes in to just keeping your team, for lack of a better word, hungry and having fun. They got to. That's kind of what we said at halftime. Have fun again. Show some emotion. Hit each other. 5-5. Let's dab. Do the things you got to do to get each other going.
Right. Yeah, and that's definitely a tough thing to do, and something that might come into play this week against USF and SMSU. It's going to be
Although, Carl,
two tough
I hope
games.
if we're not ready to play this weekend and we don't have the emotion to play, well, then you might as well just get the bats out. It's time for baseball, because there's no way, if you're not ready to play USF and Southwest State for what's on the line, then we do have issues.
Right.
And we'll be ready. We'll have a great week of practice, and we'll have their focus. And we owe both these teams. They both beat us at our place. We'd love to return the favor, so to speak. And neither team's going to want that to happen. It's going to be a great weekend of basketball.
And what are you going to do differently? Is there anything different?
We've been the same for 31 years. We do what we do. It's my 32nd year of college coaching, and we're not going to change much. We can get better at things. We can make shots. We can get to the free throw line, execute better. But there's no pulling the bunny out of the hat. We just do what we can do and do it the best we can.
All right, Coach. Thanks so much.
Thanks,
and we'll
Carl.
talk about those games next week. Well, the women's team also got to celebrate 2 wins this weekend. We're going to have Coach Krause on after this. Welcome back to Augustana All Access. I'm joined by Coach Krause to go over the women's weekend against Minnesota, Crookston, and Bemidji State. And, Coach, right now you have an NSIC record of 13-5, and you sit right behind USF and Winona State in the South Division. But you had to get these 2 wins against Minnesota, Crookston, and Bemidji State, and you beat Minnesota, Crookston 87-79. So just to get us started, what were your overall thoughts about that game?
Well, for much of it, I was disappointed in our defense, where, that's a Friday game where we've had, a good opportunity to sort of prepare and become real familiar, or as familiar as we could be with their personnel and their scorers. And so we kind of emphasize, hey, these 2 sharpshooters are going to shoot them in if you leave them, and we just continued to do that, it seemed like, for much of the game. It got a little bit better in the second half, but the big difference was our offense kind of kicked in, especially in the second half, and we're able to score enough to get an important win.
Right, and especially Shelby Sullen. She's doing great this season, but she had an especially good game against Minnesota Crookston, 16 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, and a block. She also had a really great game the next night at Bemidji State. So what's she adding to your team right now? I know she's been adding a lot of things all season, but specifically right now.
Well, for her to have, 2 back-to-back games where I just felt we were real solid in the post, that gives me a little security, or at least a secure feeling, and adds a little bit defensively when people attack the basket, where she's there to either distract or block a shot or whatever. But she did score, and maybe she hit a 3 on the weekend, but a lot of times that's where she ends up doing a lot of her offensive damage, and she was around the basket more, and real happy with her play.
Right. And then moving on to Bemidji State, like we said, she had a great game there. You beat them 86-61. But I just got to double check a stat that 29 assists in that game. You had 19 assists the night before, but 29 against Bemidji State. Your team's obviously moving the ball really well and sharing the basketball. Is that something that you're stressing to them right now, or something they just kind of naturally do?
Yeah, well, we emphasize it all the time, and try to just let them know, hey, that extra pass was good or nice, and where you'll give up potentially a shot of your own for maybe a better one with a teammate. And there have been nights, and the Bemidji probably really jumped out as a game where our ball movement was excellent, and then of course you have to hit a few shots to be able to get a bunch of assists too. So it was a fun night. We defended better, and it seemed like the second night of the Friday-Saturday combinations that we play, our energy level was pretty good, and we're fairly deep, and maybe at least in comparison to Bemidji's. So it was a good game, good way to end the weekend for us.
Yeah, and obviously kind of capitalizing on being at home too, I'm sure
Yes.
helped with energy.
Oh, yes.
This week you've got USF and SMSU, and not to overlook Southwest Minnesota State. They're 3-15 right now. Like I said, not to overlook them. But let's talk a little bit about the USF game. It's just really, really important because they're right ahead of you in the NSIC South Division right now. How important, and what are you going to have to do in this game?
Well, it seems like a long time ago that we had our first time, and we didn't play particularly well in our arena game against them. And then often you just have to give your opponent, at least part of that credit as well. They defended us pretty smart, but they also just hit some tough shots, it seemed like, right when they needed them in that game. So we're probably going to start with a little emphasis on the defense and just trying to do a good job knowing their personnel, which this is probably the easiest team to know personnel on,
right.
And then see if we can't get some of that good ball movement and take care of the ball, and hopefully we shoot a little better percentage than we did first time around.
Yeah, and how do you prepare? I know you said kind of focus defensively. How do you prepare for that in practice?
Well, I think the big thing is just their tendencies, or what individual players, what their strengths are, and kind of push them to or away from areas where they're most comfortable, and then simple things like just contesting shots and trying not to give them easy ones, second or third opportunities. And if you defend smart, then you'll make that team make shots, which they did pretty well the first time around, but that'll be the way we approach it.
All right, Coach. Well, thanks again so much for
Thanks,
joining
Carl.
us. Well, in case you missed signing day last week, we got the recap on the new recruiting class from Coach OJ next. Welcome back. February is an important month for athletic departments across the country as they add new members to their programs. The excitement of incoming freshmen creates anticipation for future seasons, and that was especially true for the most recent addition to the Augustana football and soccer team. A total of 32 student athletes signed with those two teams last Wednesday, and although there's over 200 days until Coach OJ and his crew take the gridiron again for NSIC play, he reassures us that signing day is just as important as a Saturday in the fall.
Anytime you get at the end of a journey, to me this is game day. We put all the preparations in and all the study of film and everything, and then it comes down to today, and you win or lose on kids. And I think we've identified the right people, and they all said yes. So it's an awesome, exciting feeling to bring in a new family into the Vikings.
To be exact, a total 24 players signed their letters of intent to be future Vikings for Augustana football. The group will represent 7 different states, and they have one thing in common besides being extremely athletic. Coach OJ says they all come from successful high school football programs, which means they have an understanding of what it takes to win.
We got 5 kids from Texas in this class, 2 from Florida, 1 from Wyoming. We've been doing a good job in those areas in Texas and in Florida the last couple of years, and just happened to find those kids that fit the needs we had in this class. Some length, some speed, some size, again, some really good programs, and they've played against high caliber athletes. You look at our corner from Florida, Sidney Capers, there's 8 wide receivers from that conference going to the SEC. So he's seen some pretty good talent in his high school years. So.
Texas, Florida, and Wyoming account for 8 of the incoming freshmen. 9 of them come from Minnesota, and the remaining 7 are from Nebraska, Iowa, and Colorado, and they each fill a need that will surface over the next few seasons.
At the end, we wanted to get some length at our defensive end positions, and we did a good job with that. Another one was at corner. We have 2 veteran senior corners that'll be graduating after the season, so we want to make sure we got a couple young men that we think are going to be the future and challenge our current guys. And then also making sure that we continue to get some length at offensive tackle. We got a couple big boys that really did a great job in high school, and we think are going to be exceptional players for us.
The coaching staff assessed their recruitment process in 2 ways. First, spreading AU's footprint nationally, which was successful, reaching 7 different states. And second, evaluating their needs not just for this upcoming season, but for fall 2018 and 19 as well.
And I think we really did a good job being realistic of our current roster and also how these guys will fit into the mix going forward. And hopefully we redshirt every one of them. You know, I think we've developed our program to the point where every one of these young men will hopefully be able to practice for a year and get stronger and smarter in our systems before we ask them to play. But I will say this, there's 6 or 7 of them that are going to play pretty early in their career and at least have the opportunity to challenge to do so.
Augustana Soccer also added 8 freshmen to the roster for fall 2017. Here's a complete list to look over. Coach Barkas picked up 4 from South Dakota, Kylie Claiborne and Savannah Ellender from Rapid City, and Izzy Hedge and Skylar Moen won't have to travel too far, being from Sioux Falls. He also signed 3 from Minnesota and 1 from Nebraska. Congrats to Coach Olszewski and Coach Barkas on another successful signing day. Well, up next, we reveal the answer to this week's Vikings vote and give you our pick for the Viking Player of the Week.
Augustana All Access on Midco Sports Network is presented by Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and Classic Import.
It's time to answer this week's Vikings vote. We asked how many true freshmen have played under Coach O in his time here at Augustana. Your choices were A0, B8, C3, or D4. The correct answer this week is D4. The only true freshmen to play for Coach OJ in his 4 years here are Jake Welshamer, Trevor Nyes, Joe Schiller, and Bryson Hamilton. So only a select few get to play their first year as a Viking. It's time to name our Player of the Week, and this week it goes to an entire team. The Augustana wrestling team put on quite a show inside the Elman on Sunday. The Vikings found momentum late in the match after trailing Upper Iowa 16-9. Arrow Amo was at the helm of that momentum shift, getting an easy win with an 11-3 major decision. That would put Augie just 3 points behind at 16-13. Then it's Ben Goodwin and Michael Lohman who both get takedowns in sudden victory. Goodwin at 197 pounds tied it up at 16-all, and Lohman at 285 puts Augie over the top, leaving Augustana undefeated in the NSIC with a final score of 19-16. And the team improves to 11-5 and 5-0 in conference to get our weekly honor of Player, or I guess Players of the Week. Congrats to Coach Reitmeyer and his team. Well, that's all we have for you on this week's episode of Augustana All Access. We'll see you back here next week. Thanks for watching.